This is the Radical Rant Podcast.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Radical Rant Podcast for August the 14th of 2019. Adam aka CSRadical here with you guys as always, and this is going to be, well, a much happier podcast than last week, that's for damn sure. We're not out of the woods yet, though. We are still going to talk about a little bit relating to the video games must be violent stuff that we've been hearing for the last little while, but at least we have one target in mind rather than a bunch of politicians, that being Walmart in this case. That's one of the big things we'll be talking about. That's how we're going to open the show. There's going to be a lot of little small things on the side of it. We are going to talk about loot boxes once more, specifically that publishers may have to actually disclose the odds for them soon. We're going to talk about the infamous Borderlands 3 private investigation sort of thing that's been going on that included them sending people to an actual streamer's house. And then we're going to have a lot of fun stories talking about games like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, WWE 2K20, and Persona 5 to name a few. So first, like I said, we aren't quite out of the woods yet when it comes to the video game violence accusations that we are seeing, although this time it is more specific to business than it is to the political game. So, following the mass shootings that we saw in El Paso and Dayton, Ohio, we have heard that Walmart started putting out memos to their employees from corporate headquarters saying that they need to remove the advertisement of any violent video games out there, specifically ones that show and reference violence in them. The specific memo seems to appear to say, remove your store for any signing or displays that contain violent images or aggressive behavior, remove from the sales floor, or turn these items off immediately. So, I mean, there's a little more you can go with it, but the crux of it is that Walmart is removing advertisements for video games that may include violence, and yet are still allowing the sale of guns in their stores. That's the key here. Now, taking away the guns thing, for the time being, taking away that, let's just talk about the removal of the violent advertisements. So here's my question immediately. If we're removing advertisements of violent video games, what about films? What about sports? Because, I mean, I'm sure there are advertisements for football equipment where there might be the odd thing where there is a picture of somebody being tackled. That's still a violent act. I mean, how far does the rabbit hole go? I mean, most importantly, though, it's again, is this idea of fictional violence. It's not real. Like, we allow all these movie posters, we allow all these DVD things, we allow streaming services, all these advertisements, those seem to not deal with anything, but they show real people. Like, I'm sure if you go into the electronics section when you have all the TVs, I'm sure probably one of them is showing some sort of an action movie, and you're seeing bullets flying around, you're seeing guys doing car chases and getting into accidents. Like, that seems to be okay, but violent video games where it's completely fake people, that's not. So again, it's the same thing that we keep saying before. It's fictional. Why is the stuff that's fictional being the ones attacked? And why not anything that's live action? Why not anything that you could consider in any aspect being real, even though that movies, generally speaking, are fiction, but they still show real people in realistic situations, whereas video games are as not real as you can get. So, I mean, there's that. And it's this stupid bullshit that we're seeing where all these people seem to be falling for the idea that video games might be causing aggressiveness and the intent to murder in kids, which is insane. And I don't think we need to go into that again. But again, it just comes off as a scapegoaty behavior. And more importantly, I think this is just Walmart doing the easy PR move to please the conservative side, the gun-toting side, which I'm assuming is more centered in the southern states and places where guns are a little more free. in terms of people are a lot more open to kind of tote them around and shit like that. I'm sure it's there to please that customer base. I'm sure it's also there to please political officials in that area. And I'm sure it's just easy for Walmart from a business aspect, because let's go to the gun side of it. It's probably a lot easier to just remove violent video game advertisements than to just remove guns from your store, because I imagine you make a lot more money off of guns than you probably would in gaming. I'm sure the profit margins are a lot better there than they are on video games. So I'd be very willing to expect that it's probably leaning more in that direction, that it has more to do with their bottom line than it does with, actual people, which, by the way, as we've learned throughout history, Walmart is not quite too big in favor of you and me, the average person, the human being aspect of it. I'm sure profits are a little more important, which, it's a business. I don't fault them for it. I just find it stupid when you guys do things like this and then expect us to fall for that shit, because I think most intelligent people are not stupid and see what you're doing. You're using an easy scapegoat to make it seem like you've done something to change things, but in reality, all you did was you took the one thing that doesn't really affect your bottom line that much. Because let's be honest, you taking down advertisements for Call of Duty is not going to stop people from buying Call of Duty. They know that Call of Duty exists, so you're not changing anything. So it's just a dumb story. The other silly thing that came out from the response to the mass shootings, and obviously this sudden influx again of video games being targeted as the source of violence, ESPN decided to pull it wasn't the live tournament. It was what's the word I'm looking for? Like a re-airing, like just a highlight reel sort of deal. Because this tournament already happened. It was an Apex Legends tournament, and ESPN took it. It was supposed to air on Sunday afternoon, and they took it down. And they're saying, it's out of respect for all the victims and those impacted by the recent shootings. And you know what? If that truly is the case, fine, I guess. I'm not necessarily mad at ESPN for doing this. And at the end of the day, it is a re-airing. It is a highlight package. It's not the live tournament. It's not anything of that sort. However, I will still say that it's just dumb, because this didn't have to do with the other. Like, Apex Legends is a more sci-fi level series, because Apex is loosely based on Titanfall. It's not a modern day thing. It's not a present day thing. It has nothing to do with the other. And it's just a quick thing to be like, well, we think this is a little disrespectful. I'm like, I don't think anybody would have been that upset. I don't believe that people would have suddenly just got all up in arms because ESPN dared to have a video game tournament about a week since the shootings. So I'm not... It's one of those cases where, I'm not annoyed, but I'm also just like, you didn't have to go that far. So, I'm not going to say that ESPN should be ashamed of themselves or anything of that. It's just more along lines of I don't think you needed to go to that point. I don't think that was necessary. But either way, it's just one of those things that I'm like, dude, there's nothing wrong with putting that on. And if anybody told you that, just tell them to fuck off. Come on. It's just another PR thing, and I just hate the PR game. I can't imagine being somebody that works in that industry, because Lord knows you got to juggle so much shit. But anyways, I digress. It's just one of those little things that kind of just got my attention, but I'm not massively upset about it. I just figured it was a nice tie-in to the previous story. So anyways, story came out earlier this week, or it might have been towards the end of last week. I can't remember. But there is a future change coming in where publishers are going to have to disclose odds for loot boxes, because Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo have collectively agreed upon such a thing. So, let's see. I'm trying to find the name of this person here. The Chief Counsel of Tech Policy of the ESA, Michael Warren... I'm going to fuck this up. Is it Warneck? the quotes here, and this is verbatim. I'm pleased to announce this morning that Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony have indicated to the ESA a commitment to new platform policies with respect to the use of paid loot boxes in games that are developed for their platform. Specifically, this would apply to new games and game updates that add loot box features, and it would require the disclosure of the relative rarity or probabilities of obtaining randomized virtual items in games that are available on their platform. I think sometimes that this is a different quote. This is further in the story. I think sometimes that the economy we're dealing with is... Sorry, hang on here. The wording is a little bit strange here. I think sometimes that's the economy we're dealing with is that... Oh, wow, this really is a fucked up thing. Hang on. This is the problem with some of these quotes is that I think the way that they translate it just kind of ends up just not making grammatical sense. And that really fucks with my brain. Because, like, I could just read this verbatim and it just sounds dumb. So, fuck it, I'll just do it anyway. And you guys can understand how stupid this looks. I think sometimes that's the economy we're dealing with, is that appreciates being... Okay, no, I can't. I just fucking can't. Alright, I'm just going to skip that sentence because it's driving my fucking head crazy. Disclosure is wonderful. I think we all need to understand what it is that we're buying, but it's a matter of how do you do that. It's a matter of how clear it is and whether or not we're being clear to the industry as a whole across the board, or if we're trying to create clarity for one particular outline individual. I think we can't do the latter. All we can do is basically put out disclosures that in as clear a sense... Oh my god. As clear a sense as possible makes people understand what they're getting, what they're purchasing if they decide to do it because they love that game. That's their right to do it. I don't think that we as an industry needs to step into that parental role, though. Because some of these people are not children. Some of these people are our age. They're spending $1,000 on the game that they love, and this is their way of relaxing after a hard day's work. And I said this a while ago when I was talking about people that spend a lot of money on these kind of games, like the sports games, like I do play with MLB The Show. I get people that spend a lot of money. I get that they do. If they want to do that, fine, I guess. But you gotta understand that, you know what, like, it just seems dumb that for a game that you pay 70, 60, 80, whatever it's costing for you wherever you are. When it's costing that much and you're paying more for literally single players, for example, or for single weapons, I don't understand how you can justify that. I said it before, I don't mind loot boxes, but I think the way that they're priced is fucked up. I don't think that there's value for what you're getting based on what you're paying. I would be okay with buying a Major League Baseball card pack if it was $1, maybe $1. I would justify it, maybe. But fuck, like, paying $100 plus for currency that can't... And again, I did the math, and you know what? I'm going to go back again and tell you specifically what it is, because I can't drive this point home enough. So as I go onto the website, and I don't think there's a stub sale on, so I think I'm getting the legit full price. So when I'm shopping for stubs, which is their virtual currency, and this is the time that my internet likes to be a little bit slower, so this is my price. So for 150,000 stubs, which is the max, it's technically 100,000, but they're like, oh, we'll give you 50,000 as a bonus. No, we're buying 150,000 stubs. So that is $133.49 Canadian. Now, if I go into Google and translate that to US dollars, because I know that'll help some people, let's see, $139.49. So that's basically $100 solid for you guys in the States. So to tell you how stupid this is, the best player you can buy in the game in terms of the live rosters, this is the people that are currently playing in the game today. It's Mike Trout. No surprise there. The best player in baseball right now. What he goes for currently at this very moment, the cheapest buy order. This is not like the order, because this is a market. This is not the cheapest order that people have put in to buy it. This is the cheapest order to buy it exactly right now. It is $172,219 stubs. So for $100 US, for $133 Canadian, you can't even buy one player being the best player that you can get there. But that's not even the best player. It's not even the best player now. There are 99 overall players in this game that you can buy for under 50,000 stubs. I think, yeah, like you can buy a George Brett right now, who is a very good player, and you can buy him for 39,000 stubs. So that's what, if you're doing the math, $133, like 100. Okay, for $100 for 150, you're thinking, okay, well, probably what, $20, $15 for, yeah, maybe like 20, 30, maybe even $40. No, it's probably more like 30. I'm sorry, math is hard. So for even a player of that caliber, it's still like $20, $30. That's insane. I'm sorry, but that's insane. I remember going to my local card store, trading card store, and getting a magic cylinder for the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. And that was one of the best cards at the time. And it still only cost me $10. It still only cost me $10. And that's part of the reason why I can't buy, Major League Baseball cards now in the video games, is because even when they were physical and real, I still think going back to thinking about me spending $10 for a magic cylinder was dumb as fuck. Stupid. Absolutely stupid to pay $10 for a single card. So to pay more than $10 for a virtual card that has no resale value and honestly isn't that big a deal, I don't get it. Now, if this Mike Trout card that costs more than $100 American, if it was, let's say 150,000 stubs would cost you $20 instead of 100. All right, you can kind of make a case for it. Because, it's still expensive as shit if a Mike Trout card is going to cost you, say, $25. But at least it's not over 100. Because that makes sense. One Mike Trout card in this game is worth more than the game. That's how stupid microtransactions are. That's my problem. That's my problem with loot boxes and microtransactions of that aspect, is because they're putting value to things that literally have no value as being more valuable than the game. That doesn't make any sense. That just does not make sense. So that's my thing. So going all the way back to where this started from, the idea that actually not even certain things, it will be everything now for Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. I don't know what this means for PC at this point. But for those three consoles, we have to have the odds. We have to now. Which means Madden, FIFA, all those EA Sports games now have to tell you that you have the most unlikely chance of getting that card you want. As I said before, I play the Danmachi game on mobile devices. And it tells you straight up, this is your odds, but if you get this specific thing now, if you buy like a set of 10 right now, instead of buying just one, if you buy the set of 10, which is the max you can buy, it's 400, is it crystals? Not important. You pay 400 of their currency, which is relatively easy to get if you just keep logging in and reaping the bonuses or playing the game just a little bit here and there. It's not too hard. You're guaranteed at least the highest rarity of a card in that set. And most of the time, the most different people in that set is 4. So if there is one you want, if you pay 400 of that currency, you have a 1 in 4 chance of getting that character guaranteed. Actually, there is even a set right now. There is a set that came out because there's a couple of new characters in the anime that just, as the second season is rolling along, and it's the single character, and it just straight up says you pay 400 of the currency for the 10. No, sorry, it's an 11 pack. You pay for that right now, you're guaranteed one of that person. One guaranteed. Now, if you want to max the character out, you need 5. But if you just want to collect one of everything, you can do that. Most of the time, there's a pretty good chance you can do that. And I've got a pretty good set of them, and I've never spent $1 on that game. It's stuff like that I don't mind. And the reason, too, that I don't spend money on it is because, again, I'll see what the odds of it are and see that it's, a 5% chance of getting a rare if it's not a guarantee or whatever it is. I've seen games where it's a 1%. Actually, I'm playing one now. It's called Destiny Child. And they have a Blaze Blue promotion running right now. And I'm annoyed at it because to get the characters you want, it's like a 1% chance. And it's like, dude, I can do math. 1% is pretty much you're not getting it at that point, unless you're really fucking lucky. So again, it's all free currency that I didn't buy, so I'm not upset that, I didn't waste money. So it's not terrible, but it's, again, that state of, I'm wasting my time going after things that, I think would be cool to have. But for people to spend a shit ton of money, it's just, I don't get that far. But I think this is something that needs to be done. And it should be, by bare minimum, you have to disclose the odds. I shouldn't be having to sit there and trying to do math on how likely it is to get this thing I want. I don't like that. So the fact that somebody is taking the steps, and Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo collectively are agreeing on this, that's a great step to start. But there is a lot of work that needs to be done before we even get to a remotely close point where I think is acceptable to have these kind of transactions in the games. Because up until now, like, as much as I like MLB The Show, I don't like the fact that they price their currency the way that they do. I don't like the way that they price how high the value is of these cards. And I don't like the fact that most of the time, I don't get anything. I pre-ordered the game and got I think it was a 20-pack. Didn't pull a single rare card. And I mean like the rarest card, the diamond cards. I pulled a couple of golds, which are but I never pulled a single diamond. 20. I should get something by the time I get 20 of something. My brain is like, if I open minimum 10 of something, I should get one of the highest tier. Guaranteed. No buts. No buts at all. Don't care. But that's how they get you. That's how they get you. But anyways, enough about microtransactions. We'll just cover that in another couple weeks when somebody else does something stupid. So, Borderlands 3. A lot of people are starting to boycott it. I'm personally not caring too much about this story, but it is worth reporting. So, 2K Games and Take-Two specifically, the parent company of them, they've been investigating this YouTuber. His name is Supmoto, and he was putting out leaks of Borderlands 3, and they were things that were correct. They were actual proper things. And he put out a video not too long ago saying that 2 private investigators had showed up to his residence and asking him about his account and asking him, things that were going on, some like trying to figure out where they were getting the leaks from. And it turns out that it was a 10-month investigation that 2K had been doing into leaks. I don't know if that means they were investigating that guy for 10 months or if they were going further around and trying to find things. Now, there is a lot of information I can go into here. I would rather you guys read that on your own time because I don't want to get too deep into this because there's just a core part of this I want to talk about. So at the very beginning, the fact that they sent private investigators to the guy's house sounds really, really, really fucking sketchy. Really sketchy. Why would you do that? Can't you contact the guy by email? Can't you contact him through social media? I'm sure if you were able to find this guy's fucking address, you were able to find other ways to contact him. You could have called him. You probably got his phone number. You could have mailed him. You could have done anything, but instead you had to send actual fucking people to his door. That would make me think that something's going on. I'd be a little bit afraid for my safety at that point if just random fucking people are coming up to my door. But here's the other thing. This guy also was doing things where he would exchange. He would ask for $5 memberships to his channel in exchange for that information. That's not cool either. I don't like that idea. I don't think you should be asking for money just for things that you dug for. Because it's not like he hacked anything and found this. He just dug. You shouldn't be making money off of that either. Like, you shouldn't be profiting from you just going in and figuring out leaks and stuff like that. Like, that's what getting a job as a journalist is supposed to be for. That's why you're supposed to, like, this would have been a great opportunity for him to put himself out there as somebody who's able to dig and pull out information that no one else could. That's the kind of thing that companies are looking for if they want to get you as a job as a journalist who can dig and find information on video games and stuff like that. That would have been his chance. But for him to charge people individually to do that's a little sketchy too. So I think it's in both cases there's some shittiness going on here, but obviously 2K and Take-Two are a little shittier because they're sending actual fucking people to a guy's house. So I don't know if that's doxing. I don't know what legality is there, but that shit should be illegal too. That's really fucking scary. At the end of the day, like, it's a fucking video game, guys. Like, I know that people think that, oh, well, their company's, profits could be at stake here. I'm like, motherfucker, it's Borderlands 3. Like, you're going to make a ton of money. Let's not kid ourselves. If Rockstar did that, and which is funny because Take-Two also owns Rockstar, because people were leaking Grand Theft Auto, I'd have no sympathy for Take-Two at all, because it's like, oh no, what are you going to do? Lose maybe $1 million this year because somebody's like, oh, they're leaking that? Well, fuck that then. Like, what leaks were going to happen that was going to make people suddenly not want to buy their game? What? Generally speaking, new information might help. Unless Take-Two and 2K, you're hiding something like Borderlands 3 being a little shit, and you're trying not to have people learn about some of the things that's going on here. But as far as I know, I don't think that's the case. I mean, I've heard from a few people, who've said over social media or YouTube or whatever that, what they've played so far of it in like demos and stuff behind closed doors has been great. So as far as I see it, I don't know what's going on here that might justify sending private investigators. Because, I mean, if you want to find out what's going on with leaks in your company, generally speaking, you, I don't know. You go ask your fucking employees. Not this random guy on the internet who happened to figure this shit out. If anything, send him a mail. Email, physical mail. Call him since you fucking dox his information by the looks of it. But don't go to his house. Because that would scare the shit out of me. If somebody just knocked on my apartment door and was like, hey, you know about this fucking thing that you were talking about? I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, that'd be my thing immediately. It's like, dude, come on. Don't be pulling that shit. That's some really fucking scummy shit. But anyways, let's start talking about some fun stuff, because I think this is a good time to talk about fun stuff. I think we've depressed and annoyed and been angry enough as it is for today. So, a couple of cool things I've been seeing. So, apparently, I didn't see this, but it looks like Call of Duty Modern Warfare's Ground War is going to be a lot bigger. In fact, there's been a lot of tests going around with 64 players. Much like Battlefield, so I mean, it's not that surprising. I am actually a lot more interested in Modern Warfare in a Call of Duty game than I have been in quite some time. I'm very interested to see how this goes. Only because Modern Warfare is kind of where I cut my teeth into Call of Duty games. Like, that was really where I had the most fun. Them and Black Ops. And I feel like what I've heard about this game seems like they're going a little bit back to basics and trying to kind of, do what they did that they were doing perfectly before. I mean, that might not be the case. It might just end up being another, bullshit attempt to make a lot of money like Activision is prone to trying to do, and just milking people out of every penny they have. But this game, at least so far from what I've seen, has got me very curious. I don't know if I'll get it right away. It's probably going to be one of those cases where it's like, well, if it's half off, I'll probably take a look at it and I'll catch up if I want to. But in terms of the idea of having a 64-player match, that being two teams of 32, I would imagine, that's curious, to be sure. I don't know 100% how I feel about it, only because my experience lately with Call of Duty has been the spawns being terrible. The last one I played was World War II, and I enjoyed it, and then I kind of didn't enjoy it because the spawns have always been weird. And I would imagine that for a game mode to have 64 players, not to mention there being vehicles, that it could be a little hectic. I mean, I'm sure Warfare is supposed to be hectic, but I've said it before, a large part of... I don't know if I've said it here now that I think about it. I have a bad tendency of saying I've said this before without putting in the connotation that I might not have said it specifically on this show. I got to get out of the habit of saying that. It's one of those few things that I say that I'm like, man, I need to fucking knock that off. But I've played Call of Duty for a long time, and I kind of fallen out of it because I felt like the emphasis on those games started going to the ADHD level kind of people that want to be shooty bang banging all the time. And I'm more of a tactical player, not in the sense of like a SOCOM or Tom Clancy's kind of like... I liked playing Rainbow Six Siege, but I hate playing it with against other players. I like doing the against the AI because it's still fun. But against other players, I hate it because it's way too stressful because I got way too much stuff that I don't know about. Call of Duty, when I used to be at my best, it was like Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 1 and 2, specifically those 4 games. And the way that I would always play it is I would have just enough information in front of me to make a move in terms of the minimap or in terms of just knowing other players' locations where they died and figuring, okay, well, somebody's here. And also doing enough in terms of perks, in terms of kill streaks, to be able to mask myself a little bit so they also don't know where I am. And I would take that chance to plan a few steps ahead and always be setting up gunfights so that they're always in my favor before they even start. And as we got further and further with Call of Duty games, it became less that, because there would be so many cases where it would not matter how much I tried to plan. There would always be guys spawning behind me within seconds of me planning this. So there was never... It was always more reaction time than it was strategic playing, and that kind of turned me off. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying it wasn't for me. So my worry with 64 players is similar, is that there's going to be so much going on that you're never going to have a moment to really set yourself up. You're just going to be like, all right, well, I'm going this way, and if somebody happens to be there, I hope I can shoot him first before he shoots me. And that's all it is. And to me, that's not nearly as exciting. That's kind of why I've been a little bit iffy with Call of Duty. Not to mention when the last game didn't even have a single-player campaign, which I always played. I'm one of the very few that enjoyed it, because I would use it as a way to figure out what guns I really liked before I got into the multiplayer. That was kind of what I used to do. So I'd know ahead of time, especially when they weren't level-gated, when they were like point-based, so you would spend the gun to unlock the gun that you wanted. I would always know ahead of time, okay, well, I want that gun, because that one I did really well with, and I felt like the aim was really good on that. That's how I would play it. Now, with no single player, and they try to get on the Fortnite craze, with Blackout, and I don't know. I think it's still really cool, and I'm kind of excited to see what they do with it. But I am still putting on a bit of my guard, because you know what? Call of Duty's had a history of being marketed to a demographic that's younger than what's supposed to be playing, honestly. It's weird to say that, but I do feel like Call of Duty's trying to market to younger kids. They're trying to get like the 10 to 18 crowd as well, when the crowd that's supposed to be playing this are 17 and up. But that is a whole different conversation. I got 2 more stories left here. There is the news that Yuke is leaving 2K after they finished WWE 2K20. For those who don't know, Yuke has been making wrestling games for a long time. They were the guys that were doing like the original N64 games that we all like No Mercy. They did all the PS2 games like Bring the Pain, Here Comes the Pain and Bring It On, and all the awesome wrestling games that were going really well up until about the 360 PS3 range, and then they started getting a little too realistic. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going away. They're just parting ways with 2K. And while it's not quite as obvious to some people, I think for fans of various promotions, I think for fans of WWE, for fans of AEW, maybe even fans of New Japan Pro Wrestling, Yuke's parting ways might actually open a couple of doors. And the reason is, with Yuke's being away from WWE, it means that 2K now has the chance to do everything under their own bubble, which means they can make the game specifically how they want and not be outsourcing it. I mean, there's still the chance they might outsource it to a new company that they bring in. I don't know. But Yuke's has always been trying to go into a different direction with their games, and 2K has been trying to go in the realistic department. I do not like the new WWE games because they are what most sports games are now. They're trying too hard to be real, and they're not adding enough in. They're just doing roster updates and adding a couple of features in that, kind of tweak it a little bit. The 2K games have not been good for a long time. The universe mode is terrible. You really never change much. All you do is be like, oh, you can create storylines. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. It's still, the randomizer is still fucking terrible. The story mode has always been a joke. And the gameplay for me, the fact that they're trying to make a wrestling game being too realistic, that doesn't work. Because if you've ever watched a wrestling match, on average, there's a lot of downtime in wrestling matches. And that's boring. It's like an MMA fight. When you play the UFC MMA games, generally speaking, you can have a fun time because you can just kick and punch like a motherfucker and not worry about the submission stuff. And just beat the shit out of each other like it's a fighting game. And you can do that. In wrestling, it's almost, in the WWE games, it's almost frowned upon because you get tired too fast and then you just can't do anything. And then you can do finishers early, but if you don't get the guy down enough health, then it doesn't matter. I think you should be able to have squash matches in the WWE games if you do things right. Like, if it's a no DQ match and you put a guy through 4 tables and hit him with the chair 9 times, you better have gotten the pin by now. But it doesn't happen that way, so it's a little shitty. So hopefully, with 2K being able to put their full vision into it, maybe they can make the game they actually want to make, and maybe they can polish it up so it's a little bit better. The flip side now is that with Yuke's away from 2K, they might be going and doing something that they want to do. And there have been rumors going around that they have been potentially working with AEW, or planning to work with AEW. And who was it? Was it Jericho? I think Jericho mentioned that it was inevitable that AEW is going to get their own video game. And did he say... Okay, I think if I remember correctly, Jericho said that it was inevitable that AEW was going to have their own video game at some point. But I think it was Kenny Omega that said that he wanted to do the video. If they were going to do a video game, he wanted to be more like the No Mercy kind of video games, and that includes with the graphics. Because I think they would want to go back to the old school way of things, where it was more of an arcadey fun thing rather than being a realistic representation. And that would make sense because the market that they're kind of cornering with All Elite Wrestling is trying to make wrestling cool again. And as a lot of wrestling fans have been saying, the 2K games are not really cool. They're not that fun. So I think the idea of Yuke's being away from 2K and potentially doing something with AEW... They also could be doing something with New Japan because they are a Japan-based company. That's also possible. But it leaves the door open for a lot. And as a wrestling fan and as a video gamer, I would love to see a game go back to the way that things were when they were still good. Because I haven't truly liked a wrestling video game since probably the PS2 era. That's probably the last time that I really liked playing a wrestling game. It's been a long time. So I would really like to see that form come back. And then the last thing I want to talk about is Persona 5 Royal. Specifically, that we might not be getting annoyed by a certain cat telling us to sleep all the time. So in a AMA, or an Ask Morgana anything, a fan asked the account, which Atlas runs, I know you'll reprimand me, Morgana, but can we go out more at night? And the answer was, and this is verbatim, in P5R, you'll have many more occasions to do night activities than in P5, like reading, studying, or watching DVDs with me, because you can watch videos with Morgana. But there are times when we'll be too tired for anything, and we'll go to sleep. So it sounds like while there will still be points in the game where Morgana will make you go to sleep, and this will probably be story-related. This will probably be related on base to you going to the dungeons. This could be related to overcoming certain missions so you're exhausted. That would make sense, but I totally agree with a lot of the hate that people gave about the original game, where too many times in the game you would get home in the evening and you're left to believe that it's not that late at night. Like, it's probably like 8 or 9 in the evening, and it's like you can't do anything. You can't even read a book. You can't study. You can't do nothing, and it's kind of dumb, because I shouldn't be letting a fucking cat that looks like a plushie tell me what to do. I am an adult. I should not have to be told what to do. So that's just a neat little thing, and I'm very excited for Persona 5 Royal. It's going to launch in Japan on Halloween, as far as I remember. As I look here, does it mention? Yeah, it's going to be Halloween. At least that's a tentative date. Sometime next year in the West, and I will be playing that, and I will probably be getting that day one unless it coincides with, say, Cyberpunk and Watch Dogs Legion, which I'm planning to get pretty close. Well, Cyberpunk I've already pre-ordered. Persona 5 Royal I will probably get as soon as I can. I hope I'm not stupid and pre-order the Massive Edition, although I don't regret it. But again, a lot of pre-order things I don't like art books. I don't care. I got the P4, or not the P4, the P5 Ultimate Edition because I really wanted the handbag, and it ended up being perfect for me. It's now like I use that for when I go play sports because it holds most of my stuff. It's great. It's a nice little thing there, and it's kind of cool. But for the most part, it's like, okay, I don't need a soundtrack. I don't need an art book. Like, I think I'm probably, unless like something really cool comes, I think Ultimate Editions are kind of silly. Because it's just stuff that you put on a shelf and never do anything with. So, it's tough that way. But I am really excited for Persona 5 Royal because I actually never finished the original game. The problem is by the time I got to the end, I don't know, like I just lost interest. And I think it's for a number of things. I think because in the late stages, a lot of the character development just kind of doesn't really go where I wanted it to. The last little bit in terms of the dungeons, it starts getting not as exciting, not as interesting as some of the earlier ones were. And then most importantly, that game didn't grab me as much as Persona 3 and 4 did, which meant that Persona 5 for the first time was a Persona game that I was playing that was susceptible to the, oh look, a shiny new game that I had that I really want to play, and I moved away from it. I'm trying to remember what game it was, though. What game pulled me away from Persona 5? Fuck, I don't remember. Knowing me, it was probably Destiny 2 Forsaken. That's probably what it was, because I was still way into Destiny then. But that's the problem with a lot of games. You got to really catch my attention if you're going to get me to finish you. Like Dragon Quest 11, I couldn't finish. And by the way, I guess I should say that there's not going to be a full review for Dragon Quest 11 because I never finished the game. I found out what it is, and it's very basic, to be honest. But I might at some point maybe give some sort of a review for it. But for the time being, I still give it a thumbs up. I just never ended up finishing it, even though I put like almost over 120 hours into it. But that's just what it is. Persona 5 Royal, though, going back to it, is going to be different in more ways than just adding content. It does change the story around a little bit. It's going to add a little bit more to the story, bring a little more in, see some other sides of things that you didn't see before. And in some cases, it sounds like they might even change like actual parts of the story that you saw in the first game. And that's exciting to me because it means they'll be playing it a little bit more fresh. I'm going to have a lot more into it. Some of the things I may not like might have been addressed. Who knows? But it gives me a chance again to play it once more. And I have no problem with doing that because I have enjoyed every single re-release. I enjoy Persona 3 FES. I enjoy Persona 4 Golden, especially Golden. I fucking love Golden. It's one of the few cases where I'll suggest the re-release over the original because the re-release does so much more to streamline it and just make it better. Not to mention the Marie storyline is really good, at least in my opinion. So yeah. Persona 5 Royal I'm excited for because it gives me a second chance to really get into this game further because there was a lot I liked about it and there's just a bunch of things that just didn't catch me. I didn't hate the game. Oddly enough, though, I don't think I'd put it at the bottom between 3 and 4 and 5. I think I would put 5 as number 3, 3 as number 2, and 4 as number 1. But either way, it's always exciting to see games getting a bit more added. And especially when Persona has had such a great history of doing this, I have no problem with them doing it again. And when I hear stuff like them taking out or at least toning down Morgana's you gotta go to bed stuff a little bit, I'm always happy to hear that. And it makes me excited to play the game once more. And I hope that, you guys who have already played the original game are excited to do it again. And people who haven't played Persona 5 before, maybe you can get more of an interest in it because they'll have taken away some of the stuff that was really annoying. So anyways, that's all I got for this week. I'm thinking about possibly starting up another show related to pro wrestling. That is, I know I'm going to do it. It's just a matter of when, and I just got to wait for the right time to do it. And that, in terms of it being news related, I've already said before I am going to be doing reviews of All Elite Wrestling whenever they do their shows. That is definitely in the cards for me. But I want to try to do a weekly thing that's news. I want to have one that starts off with something that I can really sink my teeth into before, because I don't want to start off and just be like, well, this happened, and this happened. It's not as interesting. I want to at least start off with something that, is interesting to talk about if you're a wrestling fan. Also, with the Church of Weeb, my anime series, the podcast itself is still slated to be every 3 episodes. of a simulcast season, I might try to do some bonus episodes. I've had the idea of going through my anime list, or my MAL or my MAL, is however you call it, and talking and doing a bonus episode for every show that I've given a 10 out of 10. That might be something I do. I might even just do bonus episodes on like tropes and like funny things, or just talking about specific shows that I like, or specific things like harem anime or hot spring scenes or beach episodes or anything like that. I might do something like that down the road. It's again that case of, as soon as this construction for my goddamn apartment balcony goes away and the noise stops on my day off, where I can have a lot of extra time to record, I can do that. But because Tuesday night is like my one recording night right now that isn't the weekend, because Monday night I'm trying to swim for exercise purposes because I'm gaining weight that I don't want to. Wednesday night I'm usually doing something, whether I'm going out with friends or playing sports. Thursday, similar thing, I'm usually doing something. And then Friday is kind of that point where it's like, it's Friday, like I just want to chill, and if I want to really record something, I'll do it on the weekend. So, and weekends is like a coin flip. I don't know if I'm going to be busy then or not. It's always been a time issue with me when it comes to recording stuff. I want to do more. It's just a matter of getting the ability to do it. And I know I could do it. If I could literally just say no to a lot of stuff and I could do it, but I like to keep my door open for a lot of stuff. I don't like to just commit to one thing like this. I've always had a lot of fun just doing everything, and the problem with that being that I can't devote all my time into one thing. That's the downside. But that's it, guys. Those are the things I'm trying to get into doing. Hopefully I can at least get around to some of them at some point soon. I would like to. Obviously, August 31st is it 31st or is it... Sorry, it's the 30th. The 30th of August is All Elite Wrestling's final pay-per-view before they go on TV on October 3rd. So there will be a review for that. So, I mean, there's going to be bonus content once in a while. I'm hoping that it's not just this podcast every week and then the Church of Weave every 3 weeks. I want to get some more stuff in there so it makes it seem like I'm not just being lazy, but it is what it is for the time being. And then as soon as, I can get a little bit extra time, say on my Wednesday day off, we can probably get a little bit more in there. But up until now, it's been a little bit more difficult, and for the foreseeable future, it probably will be for a little bit longer. So bear with me. But either way, thanks for watching, guys. Again, as per usual, like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Share this video with your friends if you think they'd be interested. And comment below if you got anything you want to say, if there's stuff I missed, if there's suggestions for things to do with the channel, for things to do with this podcast. And even if you just want to say that I'm an idiot for some of the things I say, I don't care. Just put it in the chat. I'm happy to talk with you guys. So, that being said, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.